Hello, friends, and welcome back to Market Shares. I'm your host, Tony Blodgett. And, every once in a while, it's always nice to take a look back, reflect back on previous episodes. And I was going through my notes, and I came across the show notes from the episode that I did at the end of 2022 as we were just heading into 2023. And now we sit here at the end of October, beginning November timeframe in 2024. So I thought it would be interesting to take a look back at 2023 predictions and what I said about the market. And I'll be honest with you, a lot of this stuff is still relevant today. So this is going to be fun. Let's jump in and go back. Now, one of the things I wrote down on this piece of paper, which for those of us in the mortgage business, or really, I guess anybody, is that rates started off 2022 in the threes. It wasn't that long ago we had rates in the threes. And it was by like February, March, they had jumped up into the fives. And we all know the story after that. So that's a quick little look back at what we got to still enjoy a little bit at the very beginning of 2022. But here's my predictions for 2023. And I'm going to walk through these and we're going to talk about, how these are relevant today and if they're still what I think moving forward. This is going to be a quick episode, but it'll be a fun little look back. So the first thing I wrote in my notes here was rates will continue to be high. I think we were right on with that one, right? Rates continued to climb throughout 2023, peaking in probably at the end of 2023, and 2024 has not been great. I mean, as I sit here recording this podcast today, the mortgage-backed security market is up like 47 it's up 47 basis points, or down 47 basis points, however you want to look at it. It's an inverse relationship, as you guys all know. But anyway, point is rates are volatile. They're still high. Luckily, they're no longer in the mid to upper sevens. We're down in probably the low to mid sixes, but nonetheless, still elevated by some historical standards of what we dealt with. So rates will continue to be high. Margins stay compressed. That was my prediction in 23. And oh boy, have margins continued to be compressed. I mean, it almost feels like it's the worst that it's ever been. It has been a race to the bottom as interest rates have stayed elevated. Everybody out there is trying to offer as low a rate as they can. When we started getting close to, around 6%, everybody was trying to push their rates into the fives. And then, and that all that just compresses the margins. So I would say not only was that true in 2023, it's more true now than ever. Sales matters more than ever, I wrote down back then. And I got to tell you, nothing has been more true than the art of selling is now like front and center in our industry. And I think most people have realized this. The days of order taking, your phone ringing and, you're so busy. It's all you can do to take that call and get that loan through the system. Those days were coming to an end in 2022. And so we talked about how important sales is and having a process of articulating your value to your borrowers and slowing down a little bit in the origination process and really making sure up front you're asking all the right questions. You're planting the seeds on how it is that you can bring value to the borrower, to the transaction, to the real estate agents that you work with. And I would say not only did that hold true, I think that it's still really important today. And luckily, I've seen a lot of people really up their game as it relates to not only owning the fact that we're in the sales industry, we're salespeople. And in order to be really effective at that, you have to hone and practice those skills. So if you still don't think that we're in the sales game, if you have not put an intentional, effort into increasing your sales process and realizing that scripts are important, understanding that proactively addressing objections before they become objections and positioning things in the right way makes a huge difference. Well, I'm here to tell you, it is going to be here for the foreseeable future. You got to be good at sales. You got to be good at the next one on the list, which is relationships are top, right? This is so important today that we're out there focused on building and maintaining the relationships that we have, not only with our clients, right? I mean, we think about a relationship with a client. We know that as 24 comes to an end and we move into 25, we saw a short little blip there where we saw quite a bit of refinance activity. There's still quite a bit of people doing cash out refinances, even though rates probably aren't as low as they're going to get. There's people struggling, right? Credit card debt at an all-time high, but so is equity in homes. And so having an ongoing relationship with your borrower, keeping in contact with them, being their main source that they reach out to when they have any sort of needs with their mortgage, or even helping them uncover strategies and how they can use their equity to better their situation, be ready for refinances, but also with the real estate community, right? Your referral partners, deepening those relationships, because we all know there's very few transactions happening. And so making sure that you get every referral that you can, that's going to come from deepening those relationships and maintaining those relationships. So nothing's changed there. Finding people where they need you, right? So, and meeting people where they are. This concept, in my opinion, is accelerating, not just in the mortgage business, but when you think about all service type industries, people want to be met where they are, and not everyone is in the same spot. What I mean by this is just think about communication, right? Some people still want a very thorough, detailed email. Other people, you email them and you're never going to hear back because they only do text messages, or maybe they even want to communicate through some sort of a chat type application, or through social media chat, Facebook, Messenger, things of that nature. Like recognizing that not everyone wants to communicate in the same way, and meeting people where they are. I have some clients who will never answer their phone, but you text them and they call and they hit you back in a few seconds. Like, you guys all know this stuff, but making it like front and center, being aware that you need to meet people where they are, I think is super important and will continue to be important as we move forward. Now, I put in my notes here that in 2023, home values would remain flat. So you really need to sell the value of home ownership. Now, on this one, I wasn't quite accurate. Surprisingly enough, despite interest rates climbing to the levels that they have since 22, when we recorded this, home values have continued to go up. I mean, that is not only shocking, but it's pretty awesome, really. For those people who endured purchasing, even with higher interest rates, they've still seen pretty significant appreciation over the last couple of years. And this really reminds and reinforces for me that when interest rates come down, if values have continued to rise in this environment, imagine what they're going to do as rates come down. So just a good reminder there. Home values did not stay flat. Now, what I will say, this idea of sell the value of home ownership, like that's something we could all do a better job of, because look, there may be windows of time where we see home values decline. So we always should be making sure that part of our presentation is the value of home ownership. We should always encourage borrowers to look at least a 5-year time horizon when they're buying a home, and focus on the value of why they want to own a home versus being a renter. keeping deals together will be more important. Obviously, with the scarcity of transactions, which we still have, I would argue, fewer transactions than in years past, it's more important than ever to make sure that every transaction stays together. And there's a lot that we can do as mortgage professionals to help do that, right? By setting the right expectations, by following up communication. I remember being a loan officer, and there were so many times that I had a borrower that just had, a couple little things on their home inspection come up and they would get cold feet, right? We would call it buyer's remorse. And realizing that part of your job as a mortgage professional, just as it is for the real estate agent, the real estate professional, is helping people think through the psychology of buying a home, which it's pretty normal to get some buyer's remorse at some point, and reminding people that, look, there was a reason why when you walked through that home with your family, you felt like this was the right one. You envision yourself living there. Has that really changed, or is it perhaps some cold feet that you have? How can I help you keep this transaction moving forward? I found myself often helping people through that and helping them rationalize what we know is the right decision, but helping them mentally get over some of the hurdles that everyone goes through when they're doing a very large purchase like this. So keeping transactions together. I wrote down in my notes, seller concessions, 2-1 buy downs, things of that nature. Those were really prevalent for a while. I mean, it's really all anyone talked about because almost every transaction was having a 2-1 buy down, the seller contributing, doing things like that. That's eased up a little bit. But it's definitely still there. So don't forget about some of these options especially if you're working with builders. If you're working with builders, we definitely see some stale inventory in some communities, dusting off the 2-1 buy down and reminding them that, hey, you could get a really low introductory rate. Seller can contribute towards that. That definitely is a strategy that was really big after we talked about it. Still relevant today. Non-QM and creative financing is going to be more important than ever. I said that in 23, and gosh, not only has it been true then, it's growing today. You really need to know your non-QM products, especially for your renters, DSCR loans, bank statement loans for investors, the foreign national products, all of those things, creative financing, non-QM. Boy, if that's not in your wheelhouse, you're way behind the game, because we talked about this almost 2 years ago now. But you better make sure as we move into 25, the non-QM products out there. What you have access to. There's so many, depends on where you work. We have a lot of in-house options, but there's also a ton of these that are done on the broker side. So if you're a mortgage banker, sometimes you got to dust off your broker hat and get used to what's out there on the wholesale side when it comes to non-QM. And then the last one, renovation and reverse mortgages. The thing with renovation loans, if you really think about the lock-in effect that's happened over these last couple of years, as we exited 2022, interest rates were super low for a lot of people. We refinanced everybody in the couple of years before that, and so many families are locked into their home. They're not going to sell. So renovation loans, there's less inventory. Does a borrower, I guess a renovation loan for an existing borrower, like a refinance, that wouldn't really preserve their interest rate. Maybe they would be inclined to move. But with less inventory to choose from because of the lockdown effect, people may have to make other sacrifices just to find a home that meets their family's needs, or they find a home that doesn't meet their family's needs, and a renovation loan can make that into the home of their dreams. So I think that this hasn't quite taken off like we probably predicted that it would in 23. I don't know if 25 is the year that we start seeing a lot more renovation loans. There's definitely some people who specialize in this, but keep your eye on renovation and reverse mortgages. We are definitely seeing an increase in reverse mortgages. There's been lots of talk for many years about reverse mortgages just really starting to accelerate as we see the baby boom generation, get up there in age, start retiring. I don't know the exact statistics, but thousands of baby boomers are retiring every single day in this country, and going to a fixed income, a reverse mortgage for many of them would make sense to do. A reverse for purchase, if someone's looking to downsize their home, maybe they have a good amount of equity, but they don't own their home free and clear, or they're not going to get enough cash to go buy a new home for cash. Maybe a reverse for purchase allows them to do a sizable down payment, but then structure that deal in a way that they have no monthly mortgage payment, and maybe even the ability to draw some of that equity out over time. So reverse for purchase, super relevant back then, still really relevant today, and growing, I think. These two, renovation and reverse, I think that we have not seen the height of either of those products. I mean, it's growing, but that's a market that's going to continue to grow, and one that I would keep your eye on. So that's what I wanted to just do a quick recap, you guys. I love looking back at stuff like this when I find some old notes and go, gosh, was that accurate? And is it still relevant today? I would say 90% of this list was pretty darn accurate, and almost all of it in one way or another is still super relevant today. So I hope that if you're in the mortgage and real estate space, you enjoyed this quick look back. But more than that, I hope that it reminded you about some of the things that we need to be focused on to be successful. If you're writing your business plan for 2025, think through this list of things I just went over and say, okay, what areas have I not focused on? Because every single one of these, to me, seems very important to have in your business plan, in your strategy, as you move forward. So you guys, that's all I got for you today. If you enjoy this content, please let people know. I'm just asking everybody who watches this to tell somebody, hey, check out Market Shares. There's not a lot of mortgage podcasts out there. I know that we're really, communicating to a small segment of the population. But if you enjoy it, just think about next time you talk to somebody, one of your friends, someone in your branch, say, hey, you should check out Market Shares. Fun episodes, always talking about mortgage and real estate, bringing on some great people that we interview. You can learn some things, and hopefully take away some ideas that you can implement in your business. If you ever have topics that you want us to cover on Market Shares, put them in the comments down below here on YouTube. And if you're listening, if you're one of those people that listens to our podcast in your car, we're on every podcast platform out there. So we appreciate you guys as well, listening in on your drive or your commute, or as you go about your day. So thanks, everyone. Next Friday at 10 a.m., we'll be dropping another episode, and I'll see you then. Take care.